Same way we did on the board here. That's probably something you should get used to doing, is every time you lay out a rafter, do it the same way. Right? Don't flip around. So when I lay out a rafter, I normally stand on that side of the rafter. I do it I've never changed my pattern. I always stand on that side of the rafter. Now we start with the ridge on my left. Every time. Basically I have the rafter right here. This is the top of the rafter. I'm on top of the rafter. And I always start on the left side of the rafter. And I go towards the right. That's just the way I always did it. It's ingrained in my head. So try to stay to one pattern. Whatever you do, whatever works for you, stick to it. Next step is getting that frame square set to 7 and 17. We already have that. And we're going to draw our plumb line 1, right at the corner of the piece of wood, so I can go ahead and hook onto it. I go right to the corner, draw that line right at the corner. Okay? Make sense? Alright, same thing. I'm going to hook on now. I'm going to measure my 91 and 13/16. I'm hooking on right to the corner, going 91 and 13/16. Right at the top. 91 and 13/16. From there, plumb line, right? Which is giving us plumb line 4. Plumb line 4 right here. Our stand, next step is the stand, right? So I draw that line. Our stand was 2.5, I believe. Right, we measure our common rafter. Measure your common rafter, see what your stand is. Do the same. That's basically 0, 1, 2.5. So I'm not going to bother drawing the line on this side because I know it's not right. I'm going to just take it that way. While the square is sitting there, that's basically 0. I'm going to come to 3/4. So I'm measuring back 3/4. From there to there is 3/4. Half the thickness of the hip. I slide my square over there. Hopefully it doesn't fall off the end. Now I got to 90 that up. So bring that to the top of the rafter. Wherever it hits the top of the rafter, I'm going to take it back across. So slide it back over. Can't really see if I'm in the right spot there, but probably close. Obviously, if I have it in front of me, I'd be able to see it. I take that line across. That's my cut line. That's where I'm actually cutting my bird's bum to. That was the original. Carried her over, back 3/4, 90'd up, carried back across. What I did is I solved for X. Okay? Geometry, that's all that is. We did the math as well. So if I actually measured that, it's probably 5/16. Should be 5/16. I'm just not very accurate because I'm way above my head. Too short. Okay? Make sense? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my projection. So I know the distance from 4 to 5 is my projection, which is 4 7/8. So I'll put that on. That's the corner of the building. Right? That's 4. That's the corner of the building. That's plumb to the earth. That's horizontal. So I'm going to go to 14 7/8. I'm going to put little crosshairs. See little crosshairs there? So if I had enough wood, I would just slide that over and draw that line there, but I don't. I can just rotate it around. As long as I'm plumb to that, I can use it, right? So make sure that's hitting here, that's hitting here. I hit my intersection of those two lines. I draw that line. This is where it'd be nice to kind of tilt it over, which I might do right now. We good so far? That's line 5. Line 5, long point. So I'm going to pull that off now. And we'll just have a quick little peek there. So this is where I like to tell yourself a story, right? So what that's giving me, so I'm just going to see how I'm sketching it. I'm sketching it across the top. What does that give me? That's giving me the center. So that's the long point. From there, I got to bevel back. See that sketch? It's not accurate. I'm telling myself a story. I'm telling myself I got to go back 3/4 of an inch now, or if that's 3/4, I got to go back 3/4 here to then get that line. Can everybody see if I leave it here? Yeah. So basically, I'm going to go 90 degrees, 3/4. So draw that 90-degree line.
measure 3/4, then I can actually put the square back in place on that line. That's not my cut line, right? If I connect that to there, that's an accurate side cut. I don't need to put a line there. My saw will do that. My sketch tells me how to set my saw. Now if I take that point and 90 across to the other side, I can then draw it on the other side of the board. Okay? Once I have that point, I get 90 across. Take it from here, bring it to the other side. Now I'll just go on the other side and do the same thing. Right, so I just flipped it over, draw that line. Now, when I actually have my saw, because I like using a blade on the right side, right, I tilt my saw like that, and I would cut like that. I learned off the old saws, right? Everybody else likes the blade on that. The left, I can't stand that. I was used to a normal side cut saw. So I go from saw set to 45, follow that line. That's what's going to produce. Then I come over onto this side, saw set on the 45, follow that line. Right, that's what it's going to produce on the top. The angle, right? The angle on the top. So I got a layout line on both sides. Might not be a bad idea to say that's your cut line. That's my cut line. Okay? Now, just the top. Let's see where to slide this over a bit here. So I have that line 1. What I gotta get is line 2. Line 2 is the short, right? We're at line 1, we gotta get to line 2. That's 3/4, that's 3/4, that's 1/16. Anything on a plan view is horizontal. So I gotta go from that line, go horizontal. Okay, so 90 degrees to a plumb line is horizontal. I'm gonna make a 90-degree line. And go 1/16. I made a 90, 1/16. That's my short. Now I'm gonna put my square on there and draw that 7. Draw the 7 inside of the square. What does that give me? That gives me the center of the rafter at the longest point. I'm gonna 90 that across. I could just sketch it though, right? Don't really need it accurate, so I just sketch it onto the top. Right? Find the center. Just by eye. Doesn't need to be accurate. Just a visual. Then from there, that's the longest point, right? Longest point. I got angle away. So tell yourself that same story. Angle away. Not accurate, but telling me where I gotta go next. If that's 3/4, that means I need to go 3/4 here to get that cut line. So again, it's 90 degrees. I'm gonna draw an accurate line there. 90 degrees to one cut. And so draw another 90. I'll measure 3/4 on that line. And that's my new layout line. That's my side cut. Cheat a little off, it doesn't matter, right? Just a sketch. When I actually make the cut's gonna go from that point to there. Exactly. So the saw is set to a 45. You can't actually draw a 45 on that top view though. This is where it kind of gets confusing. There's a dihedral angle, which is a third angle that gets produced by a compound miter. So it's a 40, like whenever you look from a bird's eye view, if I put this perfectly plumb, when that's plumb to the earth, if I was standing right above it, I see a 45. But when I throw it flat on the surface like this, the angle changes. That's why the side cut on every rafter is different. You still set the saw to a 45, but you can't take a speed square and mark a 45 across the top. It's not a 45 on the edge. It's a 45 when it's plumb to the earth.
When it's on the angle.
When it's on the angle. Because it's on an angle, there's a third angle that gets produced. Okay? But then I can just take that point 90 across accurately. Mark it on the other side. Right, so I just kind of 90 that across. Now I'm going to take that point, go to 717, draw a plumb line there as well. There it is. So I got it on both sides. That's my cut line. There's my cut line on that side. So saw set to a 45. When I make that cut, that's what I'm gonna see. Flip it over, saw set to a 45, come over here, make that cut. I'm gonna end up with the same thing here. The bottom. That's what my saw is gonna happen. It'll produce that angle. Bring it to a point. Bring it to a point so it sits against the two common rafters. Give us a nice clean cut there. Okay? Another thing I like to do is clip off this bottom. We didn't do that on the drawing here, but clip off that bottom. So again, if your face is 2x4, measure down from that point, the short point, 3.5. Clip it off. So you could do it on here. So from the short point, right, there's my long point, there's my short point. So from my short point, measure down 3.5, and then go 90 degrees to a plumb. Run down 3.5. It'll make it a little short, but that's fine. Otherwise, this is gonna hang below the surface. 3.5. Right, so I measure down 3.5 from here to that mark right there. Then I'll just use the 17 side of the square. 17 side of the square. That's cover the top. You're gonna cut on that line on an angle, cut that bottom off, that'll be all removed. That's not the birch mouth, the birch mouth is over here. Okay? That kind of makes sense? Again, a lot of steps there. There's one other thing I was gonna add, I can't remember what it was. But I think of it there will. Are we okay with that though? Not too bad?